Hi guys, it's me George. So I'm going to do a video today. First and foremost, I kind of need to apologise about this absolute belter of a monstrosity. I was meant to get my hair cut today, but if I'm honest, I can't be asked. I cannot be asked. And it's hilarious because one of my friends has just messaged me saying, I've just had a haircut. Rub it in. Anyway, going off track. I wanted to talk today about references and referencing. And the reason why is because this is a subject that it's been on my mind for a couple of years now. So obviously, if we read a book, and when we read a book, a lot of the times we'll read a spell on a charm, and I know, especially with me, I'll be like, "Where is that from? Where is that from? What are the references for that? Who said that? Who gave this piece of lore? Who supplied this piece of information? Is it from a grimoire? Is it from a cunning folk? Is it this? Is it that?" And I am what's known as a referencing whore. I really am. Like, I need to know where things are from because if I don't, when I read a book, it does my tits in. It fucking does my head in because I'm like, where is that from? And it really bugs me that someone won't put it in. And it's like, it's something that I actually really like low key struggle with. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to talk about today, references and referencing. So I am first and foremost in no way saying that referencing is not important. It's incredibly, incredibly important. By referencing spells, you pay homage to people that have literally supplied these spells, these charms, these conjurations, whether they be grimoires, whether they be cunning folk or wise people or witches, whether they be historians, scholars, anthropologists, anything like that. Antiquarian authors, it doesn't, it's the point is it's supplying it's giving credit where credit's due. Boom, there we go. And that's important. That's like especially important when it comes to supplying spells, right? Like if you're going to give a spell, it's important to know where that comes from. However, and this is a big however, the reason why I've said all of this is because I am not saying that references are a piece of shit and need to be chucked in the bin. In no way am I saying that. In no way would I ever say that. That's not me as a person. I think that's quite disrespectful to assume and to think that these references are just like, no. It's really important to know where things are from, guys. Always question everything that you read. And I'm a great believer in that. So, and what other people tell you. So, that being said, I think sometimes, and this is something I've actually noticed the past couple of years, is I've seen some practitioners get very hooked on referencing to the point where it actually impacts their own practice, their own personal practice. And this is something I find really, really troubling and concerning because I've seen people that will literally ditch things because they don't have historical ties to them. I've seen people that will ditch practices because they're like, oh, it's there's no references to it. It's not actually a historical thing. It's a very new thing. It's a very new thing. It's not old piece of folk magic. But the point is, does it work? Does it not? Let's be honest. Like for me, if I do a spell and there is a spell that works, I will use that spell that works. It doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter how new it is. It matters if it works. Of course, it's important to find references, to have references. But actually, if something doesn't have references and it's a new spell, there is nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If it works, if it does what you want, what you need it to do, that's all that matters. Because I've seen a lot of people are like, no, I'm not doing that anymore because there's these ties to it, there's no historical accuracy to it, blah blah blah, and that's you're kind of letting that overtake your practice. Yes, like I said, it's important to have references. It's important to know ties to certain spells, charms, and conjurations that you use, and I do think that because, like I said, gives credit where credit is due. So I 120% believe that. But for instance, this is just an example, by the way, off the top of my head. So each year you work with the autumn equinox and the spring equinox, right? So which is hilarious because in a lot of traditional witchcraft, either groups or just traditional witches in general, or folkloric witches tend to not work with spring equinox and autumn equinox. But anyway, you in your own personal practice, you work with the spring equinox, and you work each year, you do things for the spring equinox. And each year, not only does the spells you do work, but they work really shit hard, and actually you feel an incredible sense of spiritual connection. You feel an incredible sense of divinity each time you do the ritual, and it makes you feel so connected to nature and to everything around you. And then you find out that there's no historical ties to the spring equinox, and you stop it. Why? Yeah, of course, it's important to know that. It's important to know that, but just because something is old doesn't mean it's going to work. Doesn't mean that it's automatically like, if it's old and it's golden, rhymed. Sometimes if it's new and it works, that's okay, that's fine. As long as you know the references for that, as long as you know the history behind it, as long as you're not passing something new off as something dead old, using that kind of element of romanticism. I mean, God, we're not in the fucking Victorian ages. But, the point is, as long as you don't discredit something just because it's new. Because actually, I've seen practitioners change things because there's no historical accuracy to it, yada, yada, yada. And actually, I've also seen it not really lend anything to their own personal practice at all. I've seen it not really benefit them as a practitioner. So it's an interesting topic, but I think it's something that needs to be discussed because I think sometimes people can get too hung up on references. And like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing to be into referencing, particularly within the witchcraft community. Jesus wept. There's not been a lot of referencing done. There's been a lot of kind of romanticism. There's been a kind of lot of bending of the rules, bending of history, which is really fucked up and just really not good. So it's not that I'm actually, ignoring or just kind of completely, pushing to one side what's happened, particularly within the witchcraft community when it comes to history and kind of bending things. So it's not that at all. But it's funny because I notice with people, it's like people can't, like the majority of people can't really do things in halves. Like it's either all or nothing. And it's like, it's either all kind of this kind of, yes, ancient fertility cult and, everyone got their tits out in the medieval age every Tuesday and the secret coven. That's just blatantly not true because most people work till they piss themselves. They were so fucking, so hard. It's what one of my mates told me and we joke about it, but it's true. To, no, it is not with the references. We cannot practice it. It is not in history. We cannot do this. Maybe just go, ooh. Maybe like one extreme, another extreme. Find a middle ground. Balance, please. I think that sometimes people can get so warped up in these references and does it have historical ties? It has to have historical. And sometimes, you know what, it doesn't. I've got spells, charms, conjurations that I work that, yes, might be based off older things, but it isn't older things. It's completely based off of an older thing that isn't that. It isn't an older thing. It's based off an older thing. Or it could be a completely new spell. And I've got charms, new charms and spells that I work that work. And I've got a healing spell that's really new. It's not an ancient healing spell. It's nothing like that. And it's a new healing spell that I came up with along with a friend of mine, and it works. And every time someone is sick, I will use that healing spell because I know that spell works. I'm not gonna not use that healing spell because it's new and there's no historical ties. No, I want the thing. My practice needs to work. If I do magic for someone that's very sick, I'm not doing it for shits and giggles. I'm doing that because I want them to get better. Or sicker, depending how much of a bitch they've been. No, that was a joke. But the point is, I want that to work. And sometimes if something works, and yes, it's important to know history, it's important to have ties, and it's important not to fabricate things that are blatant bullshit and not real. But at the same time, don't obsess so much so that it actually impacts your own practice, because that's not good. So yeah, over and out, and I hope this video helps, and peace.